Hi, welcome to my Resin 4 Domino Art Pendant tutorial. I'm Kristen Watts and hopefully I can lead you through this step by step. For more mixed media fun, please stop by my blog at artplaytoday.blogspot.com. So now for the supplies that you're going to need. You'll need to find some just regular white dominoes. You can also find small ones sometimes at the dollar store. You'll need some E6000 jewelry glue or another kind of jewelry glue, something strong. You'll need some glue on jewelry bales or some large metal beads. You'll also need small mixing cups that are disposable and popsicle sticks or something to stir with. You need a black Sharpie and a measuring cup or measuring spoons. You can use either Adirondack alcohol inks or acrylic paint. If you're going to use the ink, you might want to find a Tim Holtz ink blender. They work great. And this is my favorite glue to use. It's a PVA bookbinder's glue. You'll also need a pour-on resin. I use Envirotex Light. You can probably just get away with a small box. And a small torch, or if you don't have a torch, you can also use a drinking straw. We use the torch or the drinking straw to blow on the dominoes and release all the gas bubbles in the resin. You'll also need either a small piece of sandpaper or an emery board. And a printout of your artwork. You're going to want to print your artwork out in a 1 inch by 2 inch size. And you'll also need something to cover your dominoes up with. So this is just a clear plastic container. The first step is to trim and glue your artwork to your domino. You're just going to put a layer of glue over the top of the domino. Try and keep it off of the edges and off the sides. You want to get it all the way to the edge. And you'll glue your 1 by 2 piece of artwork right to the domino. Get it positioned just right. It's okay if there's overhanging edges because we'll trim that and sand it. But you want to make sure it's just adhered really well. If you don't have this type of glue, you can also use gel medium. After the glue dries, you can use some scissors to trim the the sides. And then you're going to sand the edges to make your corners and sides nice and neat. Sanding gives your paper a nice rounded edge just like your domino. Next, you're going to seal your artwork, and this is really important. So you're going to want to put another layer of glue or gel medium over the top. And here it doesn't matter if there's, the lines from your finger or brush lines. It doesn't matter because once we pour the resin, that won't show. But this is just to seal your artwork to make sure the ink doesn't run. And here is what it should look like before you're ready to pour your resin. You've glued the paper, you've sealed your artwork, and you've wiped any excess off the edges of your domino, sides of your domino. And next we're going to go ahead and paint or ink the edges. This is just to give it some color. You can also use any color acrylic paint, or you can leave your edges white if you would like. I like to paint mine with black acrylic paint, and I usually fill in the colored holes of the domino because I sign the back of my pendants. You can leave those colors showing too, that's a nice effect. Here I'm using the alcohol inks. You can just pick a few of your favorite colors. I think I used 3 here. Put it on the blender and you just kind of tap it on the domino, doing the sides first, letting them dry, and then flipping it over and doing the back. I usually do a layer and let it dry and continue on with more layers until I get the effect that I want. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue on our bail. If you have a bail with a loop at the top, you can clip that off with some wire cutters and sand it. And this is what it'll look like once you've clipped that loop off and it's glued to your domino. You're going to use E6000 glue, and you want to glue your bail right to the center top of your pendant. And I just used a little bit of the E6000, put it right there in the center, and then squish your bail down into it. And then any parts that kind of squish out from underneath you can kind of clean up with your fingers. And you want to let it dry standing upright for several hours. I usually just do a whole bunch at one time, let them dry overnight. Now this is really important, marking your mixing cup. You're going to measure a 1/4 ounce water into a measuring cup or a spoon or something. It just has to be equal parts, doesn't have to be 1/4 ounce. But I poured a 1/4 ounce of water into my mixing cup, and I'm going to mark the water line with a black Sharpie. And that's going to tell me how far I need to pour my first part of the resin. Now don't pour this water out. You're going to keep it in there, and you're going to pour another 1/4 ounce of water into your measuring cup. Into your mixing cup. And then I'm going to mark the water line again. You can do this in 2 separate cups, but I like to use just one so I don't have to waste, and I think it mixes better. So now I have my 2 marks. The first mark I'll pour my first resin, and the second mark I'll pour the hardener. Now you want to pour your water out and go ahead and dry your cup out and make sure there's no leftover residue or lint from your paper towel. And now we're ready to mix the resin and then pour it. Mixing is really important. I can't stress this enough. You need to mix for at least 2 minutes. But first we're going to pour the resin into the first mark, and then you pour the hardener into the second. Doesn't matter which order you do it in, just make sure that you're as exact as you can be up to those marks so you have equal parts of resin to hardener. Once you've got that poured, then you're ready to stir with your stir stick. I use popsicle sticks, and like I said before, you need to stir this for at least 2 minutes. A small amount, 2 minutes is probably good. If you're doing a lot more, you'll probably want to mix it longer. This is really important for the curing process, and you want to make sure you scrape the sides and the bottom of your cup so that everything is getting mixed together. It will turn bubbly and kind of a milky white color, and that's okay. That's just what it does. Once it's mixed, you're ready to pour. And what I do is just frost the domino just like I'm frosting a cake. You take a little bit on the popsicle stick and you just start spreading it around. And you're just going to end up with a thin layer, but you want to make sure that your layer goes clear to the edges without dripping over. It's okay if it does drip, you can clean that off with your finger and it's fine. And then you're going to want to make sure that you bring some of that resin up to the bottom portion of your bail so that it touches, because the glue holds it in there, but the resin is what really bonds that bail to the domino and makes it solid. And you can go ahead and clean any excess off the sides of the top. Now that your resin is there, you're going to have a lot of bubbles in it, so you're going to use a torch or the drinking straw if you don't have a torch. And you're going to hold it just a few inches above and quickly go over it with the torch, and you'll see all the bubbles will disappear just like that. You can do the same thing with the drinking straw just by blowing on the bubbles, and they'll also go away. So now my bubbles are gone, and now I need to let my resin cure for at least 24 hours. You don't want to package or handle too much your domino pendants until they're fully cured. You can handle them at 24 hours, but I would wait 72 before you try to ship or package it. You want to make sure that you cover it, and I usually use 2 dominoes to kind of hold my cup up so there's a little bit of an air gap. But the cover is what keeps dust particles from settling into the wet resin. And you're done. And here are a few examples of my finished pendants.